Hello. Happy Monday evening. Welcome to the Couchcasters podcast. Good to see everyone. Hunter, Parker, good to see you too. Sorry it's been a few weeks since we reconvened. Quite a bit has happened. Basketball season for the Tide is over. So we're on to spring football and a top 10 baseball ranking. Yippee-ki-yay. So anyway, what's up, Parker? Murph, what's up, boys?
Not much. Roll Tide.
Just question. Am I lagging a little bit here? Is it showing that I'm lagging?
Your voice is good, but
you're like choppy with movements.
Gotcha.
Your voice is good. I can hear that.
You're like Max Headroom.
All right. Well, if there was a better picture, if StreamYard hadn't messed with us earlier, it would have been fine, and I'd have kept my Mac picture. But such is life. I am doing well. How are you, gentlemen?
Everything's well. We are now day after, or a couple days. Was that Saturday night? Yeah, a couple days after the ceremonial dismissing of us from the tournament by the Dukies. Not much to say, really. They just were better.
There's no better way to put it. Against the Dukies and lay up a Dookie. Wow.
Yeah,
it's not great, but
it's how I felt last year though with UConn. Like I wasn't really surprised. I thought we had a chance if we could hold them within a 10-point lead going into the second half, and we did. It was like a 9-point lead, and then sure enough, we just couldn't close the gap. So nothing shocking.
Even though we got in single digits a few times, it never felt like we were close.
No, I think their physicality just outmatched us.
Length, and then they just hit big shots. And we just couldn't hit shots. We were just missed a lot of shots at the rim. Cliff missed 3 dunks.
Yeah,
Grant missed several at the rim. He got to the rim and then couldn't finish. It was just, it was difficult, but it was pretty early on. You knew that we weren't going to be shooting the way we did game before.
I knew after.
I'm going to put that to bed right
before
now.
The game started.
I'm going to put that to bed right now. If anybody with a brain as a Bama fan, or anybody out there with a brain, thought that we were going to put up the same kind of numbers that we did the prior game, you're a fool. And I'm going to say that you're a fool. And Jeff, I think you and I talked about this briefly. You win your games in the regular season, you get a better draw. However, maybe when it comes to it, a lot of people, I know you've brought up the San Diego State game from a couple years ago, where changes definitely needed to be made. And I'm sitting over here thinking, all right, we're 2 years past that. We know we have to go get some bigs and some people who are physical to make a run. Oh, we got to the Elite Eight, and that's great. We shot lights out, but what about the game prior? What about the game prior to that? What about in the SEC tournament when we got absolutely bludgeoned by Florida, who, by the way, is in the Final Four? And then Auburn, the first time we played them, they beat up on us pretty good. And it seems like this is Nate Oates' kryptonite. I get it. He's a statistician, a mathematician, but guess what? I'm not a bullshitistician either. You've got to go get some You got to go get some centers. You got to go get some guys down in the post who are going to be physical, who are dominant. And I'm not talking about you 6'8", 200-pounders, okay? I need people who are physical because we've had length. We're getting out physical in the post. And what happens when their shots are not falling? When the 3-point's not there? That's what champions are made of. They know how to. What was your statement, Jeff? What was it? Come on. I don't want to take it all. But come on.
No, I say a lot.
No, adapt. You say adapt. Jeff says the word adapt. I say you got to have a fallback plan. You may live and die by the 3, but you got to be able to score more ways than one. When the 3's not there, you got to be able to get the 2. And then if that's not the case, you got to get the points. And then you got to be able to shoot free throws well. You can't turn the ball over. I mean, my God. It's been 2 years. I said this 2 months ago, and you couldn't figure it out.
The turnovers are some just mind-blowing stuff. Some of the turnovers you just shake your head like, what? Like, what just happened there? The dribbling into the key, there's like 4 guys and they just dribble into the key and stop and look around and the ball gets stolen. The baseline jump pass, I can't deal with that anymore. But,
I agree.
Duke was just better.
They were.
They had the better.
They really, really were.
They had the better player.
And they are deserving of a Final Four spot, so I wouldn't take that.
All 4 number 1 seeds are in the Final Four, and if you look at those games, those Elite 8 games, it's the top 4 have separated themselves from just about everybody else. I mean, Auburn had the closest game in terms of margin of victory, and their game wasn't even that close. But every other Elite 8 game was a blowout. I mean, Tennessee got slaughtered.
Yeah.
That was the only one. The only
we got beat by
lining.
20.
Yeah, there's only one silver lining I took from that whole thing was had we come out and played like Tennessee did against Duke, they would have beaten us by 35, if not worse. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I do know on some aspect why some of the blue bloods are still doing what they are able to do, but where's the want to, the I want to, I got to go up and be physical. I expect Jeff, you and I talked about it earlier about Nas Cunningham. Was that right? He's going into the transfer portal 2 days ago. What was his statement? You told me he said something about.
I don't know. I mean, it was a couple days ago, whatever. But he was like, sure, it was hard not playing this year, but at the same time, it was like growth, and then I can't wait to play, in this offense next year, or something along those lines. It was like he mentioned that he was excited to play, on the team next year, and then hits the portal.
Tell me, and it goes to what you said. There's no. You could just say something and hope it sticks on the wall. It's like paint. You hope it sticks, but is it going to run maybe a little down the little bit? Yeah, it's probably going to do that. But nobody is a quote unquote man of their word anymore. And I mean, I thought the statistic was pretty crazy when I told, actually in conversation when I was bothering Jeff earlier, 1,800 players have entered the transfer portal in basketball since Monday. 1,800. You didn't hear that wrong. Something's got to give, people. NIL, I mean, it's crazy enough in football, and it's only going to get worse. But, oh, my God. This is insanity. I have gone from loving college sports to preferring professional and not even having a favorite team. Because guess what? Why do I need to, invest my time into some of these teams, even Alabama or any of these, when they're not even there may be a possibility that they don't even really care about really being there. I care about tradition. I care about pageantry. I care about wearing the script A. I graduated from the University of Alabama. So did Hunter. So did Cameron. So did Fonzie. And I'm to the point where, I mean, and that's okay. But you graduate, like if, let's say, if AUM or UAB or teams like that, a Huntington, let's say they somehow get into a chance to be able to play in a NCAA tournament, I would wear my school colors with pride and glory. And we're at that point where money has now ruined college sports. What was the stat? Why South Carolina? They're paying Dawn Stanley all this outrageous money. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Staley.
Yeah, Staley. Sorry. But yet they're running on a deficit of a $5 million loss every year because of it. Yeah, they might go to the Final Four. They may win a national championship, but it ain't cutting it. It ain't cutting it.
This is 2 years in a row now. Nate's got the blueprint of, the type of team you need to build to win that tournament. I thought Cliff was the guy to kind of answer that, but he was pretty much a non-factor in that game against Duke and missing 3 dunks. But he didn't really provide any rim protection. They were just laying the ball up all night. I mean, how many times did you see him cut to the basket and wide open layup? Or they would go to the basket and we would just kind of back out of the way.
Yeah, it's almost like our defense was non-existent. It felt like they just walked right into layup or dunk, whatever.
I mean, it was just like, and then we'd foul, but we would tack him on the elbow, and then they'd get the bucket. And I'm just like, if you're gonna foul the guy, don't let him get the shot off.
I know exactly.
Like,
it doesn't matter.
I
mean,
felt
like we're a factor for practically the majority of the game.
Yeah.
And I might be in the minority, but going into the tournament 2 years in a row now, I felt like I had such low expectations going into it, given how we ended the season. Take the SEC tournament out of the equation because, the tournament almost, it's lost its relevance, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. Maybe for the smaller schools, it means something.
Yeah.
But at least for Alabama, it didn't really matter. We were pretty much locked into that 2 seed at that point.
Right.
But going in, I was, if we made it to the Elite Eight, I would be content that it was not a failure of a season, essentially, given how we chose to end it and how rough that later half of the season became.
Yeah.
So I'm actually, relatively satisfied as you can be with how we ended it. That Duke is worthy of a Final Four spot, much like UConn was.
They're legit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whoever, if they make it to, the finals, I would not be shocked, essentially.
I wouldn't either. I mean, Houston plays lockdown defense, but in something like that, you just got to, in my opinion, Duke has Cooper Flag and nobody else does.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
No disrespect to Janai Broome and what he is to Auburn, but I mean,
I'm not even sure if Auburn
Flag's the best player in the country. I mean, Broome's got an argument, though. It's hard to argue against that guy. He dominated Michigan State. I mean, he just destroyed them.
Yeah.
I think in tournaments like this, when everything is so even, who's got the best player?
Yeah, and I would argue, granted, at the end of the day, Auburn's in the Final Four. You can't argue that even they haven't really looked like the Auburn that I've seen throughout the season. And if the teams that they've faced, if they were half as competent as their rankings would make them out to be, they would have wiped the floor with Auburn, it felt like. But if, it is what it is.
Yeah, they were like all their games, they would be, 1 or 2 point games at halftime, and then they'd win by 12, or 14.
Yeah.
It was like
they were always a second half team. It felt
you almost feel like they should have been up by 12 or 14 at halftime already. Like, they were just kind of fiddling around in the first half. And then second half, they're like, "Oh, okay, we're done fooling around. Let's put these guys away and move on to the next game."
Yeah.
So that's kind of the vibe I got from them. Although now that they're here, it's going to be different because Florida's a different animal than Michigan State.
And Florida
Alabama
had a
State.
similar rough start too. I was really nervous that Florida would not be able to beat Baylor. I think it was, but they look good the other night as well. So,
and Florida's they've been down big every game, and then they come back and win. Yeah, UConn game they were down, I think, and then ended up winning by 2.
Yeah, it was UConn. That's what it was. It was UConn that I was thinking of.
Yeah, and then they had to come back. Was it Texas Tech? Was that who they played?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if Auburn goes in a similar structure of banking on coming back in the second half, I don't know if a Florida team is going to let you do that with how they played. So
that'll be a battle, that's for sure. I think it's good that all 4 number 1 seeds are in the in the Final Four. That sucks that we didn't make it, but we shouldn't have gone 2 and 3 in the last 2 weeks of the season and lost the 1 seed.
Yeah. Now that was the question I wanted to ask, and I can ask Parker when he comes back. With how the season has shaped up as a whole, and how it's all the 1 seeds going into the Final Four. Do you think NIL, and I might be answering my own question, that NIL has influenced that if we weren't in this NIL era, that we would see more of these Cinderella stories, these smaller schools?
I think those days are over.
Yeah, and that's what's so sad, at least for basketball, that's kind of the magic of March Madness.
Yeah, the upsets, the Cinderellas. There's a reason that term is that term, Cinderella story. These Cinderellas.
And and I don't really believe that in football. Regardless, the polls try to make the Cinderella stories happen, and we saw what happened with TCU.
It's even worse in football.
But at least in football, at the end of the day, the physicality of that sport, there's just no way that I think a Cinderella story can truly happen. Whereas in basketball, not to take away from it, that you can have these kids who are playing their heart out, like that. This is their moment to shine, basically. And we've seen people make NBA careers out of it, from upsetting a top seed in the tournament. That I have, when we talk about NIL, I am upset or saddened by losing that for March Madness.
Mm-hmm. You have teams like you're talking about special players or whatever coming into it, making special moments. Kemba Walker is one of the ones that comes to mind. Guy has had himself a career in the NBA, right? Everybody loved.
He was on that team that beat us that year in the Elite Eight, wasn't he? Or was he later? Or was he on the team that won it later?
Kimba was actually, when was he? He was in that run when he's been in the league for plus 10 years now. He was in there with Kentucky and Duke were like literally juggernauts. 2010 to 2015, somewhere around that age or somewhere around that era. But players like that, and if I remember correctly, that was before UConn started making their run, or if they were.
Yeah, he was at UConn from 8 to 11.
8 to 11. So he had one that was just a diabolical, one of those, not diabolical, but one of those shots that you're talking about, Hunter, that he one of those step backs, 3 seconds left, step backs, hit a 3, sends his team to, wherever it was. And
what was it? Steph Curry was from like St. Peter's or something like that.
Davidson.
Yeah, Davidson. That's what it was.
He played 4 years at Davidson too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
looking
it wasn't like
he
was a one and done. He played 4 years there.
Yeah, to think that, if Steph Curry were in the college basketball scene right now, there's no chance he's playing for a Davidson, it feels like.
Absolutely.
If he did, it'd be for 1 year, and then he would.
Yeah, exactly. A 1 year
obviously,
deal.
And
even teams like, I feel like Gonzaga or Butler or Georgetown. Y'all remember when Georgetown was competitive in basketball about 10, 15 years ago? And now I'm like, I haven't heard about Georgetown
or Villanova
since Allen Iverson was there.
Yeah.
Villanova was a force to be reckoned with back in the day. And it's like you never even
They beat us. They beat us.
Yeah, they beat us in the championship year. So it's like every year we get knocked out of the tournament, it's by the eventual champion, it feels like, except for the Bruce Pearl year that he got us when he was at Wisconsin, Green Bay. But, I mean, you can, like, we lost to UConn, the Elite Eight, their eventual national champ. We lost to UConn last year in the Final Four, the eventual national champ. Well, of course, San Diego State made the Final Four when we lost to them. Duke's in the Final Four now.
San Diego State is probably the one that stings the most. UConn,
that's probably the worst loss that I can think of. The worst Bama loss.
With the team that we had, and Brandon Miller was so special that that was the one that stung the most. Whereas UConn and Duke now, it's
we were playing with
like
house money.
I knew.
Those last or Saturday night in 2004. I mean, we were playing. We weren't even. We had no chance. So it was like whatever we do here will be. Will be gravy. But 23, we were the number 1 overall seed, man. We had the best player in the conference. We had the best player in the tournament. And he tweaks his groin in the SEC tournament, and he's a shell of himself in the NCAA tournament coming to a head in that Sweet 16 game.
But even then, it's crazy to think about. That was the year that all the first round seeds were knocked out before like the Sweet 16 or something crazy.
I know. I'm like, that was the year I thought that was our path.
Yeah. It was our easiest path in the last.
Just the way we were finishing that season, the way we blew through the SEC tournament. I mean, I just thought we were playing too well to get bounced in the second weekend.
It gave me Kentucky vibes
that we would have beat by 20. Yeah. I think any other night we played him, we probably would have beat him by 10 or 20.
And I think that season was so demoralizing to watch that, the next seasons that we've had have almost just been like, well, it's not as bad as that one season. So it's kind of.
Well, that's the thing. Like you were talking about Brandon Miller. I mean, he was I don't know if he went number 1 in the draft. What was it, number 2?
Or number 2 for the Hornets.
So, he was behind Wemby.
Victor Wemby.
Would have been number 1 any other draft, but the one that he went in.
And that's the thing. Like we look at all of these other teams, like a Duke. Cooper Flagg, in my opinion, is going number 1. There's no doubt about it. When you've got players like that, and for something like that to happen, where, I mean, I've seen Flagg get injured a couple times this year, and he's able to. And he looks a lot like the.
No, it was like the season ender, wasn't it?
There was at one point he tweaked an ankle, I thought, and I was like,
it was like a serious injury. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's fine. He's playing fine.
They gave him the spike.
Gave him the old shot in the ankle.
Like what's his name in Varsity Blues?
Horse tranquilizer.
Yes. Gave him the shot.
Yes. Gave him the shot. Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. Well,
come on now.
Come on,
let's go now.
Bud Kilmer. Bud
Kilmer.
God. I agree.
So.
As Alabama
your audio's clipping.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
there we go.
Sorry.
There we
go. Sorry.
There we go.
Getting away from my mic. Sorry about that. But when you have players like that, you got to make the most of it because they don't come around often for schools like us.
So here's a question. Here's a question for you guys. How will Mark Sears be remembered when we look back in a decade and think of the Mark Sears run at Alabama?
Hunter, I'll let you go first. I've got my reserved opinions on it.
I'll remember Sears positively overall. I think trying to figure out how to put it into words. There are certainly games where you could see his shortcomings that when he goes to eventually go try to have an NBA career, I think he might struggle a bit. But if you look, I think overall, I think his numbers and what he did for this program, I think he
Sorry,
can
that was me.
overall.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you, Hunter. He's definitely most accomplished player in Bama.
But I think
history,
we definitely saw his ceiling in a few games, and that's the part when he's going to an NBA league where there's not that many spots in general that I wish him the best and hope he can squeeze in there somehow.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's got a career in Europe waiting for him. I don't think he was exposed severely Saturday night by the size of Duke, which is basically every NBA team is that size,
Right.
and physical like that. And he could not get past Duke's bigs dribbling. He pissed away 30 seconds of multiple shot clock possessions, dribbling around trying to get his way to the rim or get loose, and then they would just swat the ball whenever he got close. That one time he took like 5 steps, he just picked up his dribble and was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just it was like,
Yeah, and it's almost like that's not even your fault. It's just skill wise. It's just your physical build.
Limitations are there, and
it's just not there. Yeah,
Duke took him out of the game, and nobody else stepped up. Behind him.
I see Mark Sears' legacy as what a lot of people would view. And I know where
you're going. And
I know
too.
But
I know where you're
and,
going.
and
I'll tell you why you're wrong when you're done.
I'm going to view it shades above what a lot of people think of Jalen Milroe when it comes to football. However, the reason I'm saying shades above it, because I saw comparisons middle of the season. I was like, this is right here. He can't hit it. There were some games that he did come to it in crunch time and did what he needed to do. But he also, to y'all's point, had his shortcomings. I mean, the guy is 6'1", trying to go play in a league full of people who are 6'9" plus. Basketball's a little different than football when it comes to stuff like that. So there are alternatives for him. If he goes plays in the EuroLeague, I think I could see him having a successful career there.
He could last a good while over there.
So that's really the only when we're talking about legacy at Alabama, we're talking about legacy. We're not talking about their ability or anything like that. I think he's, as far as the Alabama basketball goes, he's the best that's played at Alabama because of stats, leadership, yada yada yada. Brandon Miller is obviously the most talented that we've had. Colin Sexton's up there too. There's other players who are probably more talented than he was, but overall, I mean, the guy did a bunch for Alabama, and without him, I don't know where we would have been and how this season would have transpired had he not been there. Yeah, we had injuries. Yeah, but there was times where his shortcomings probably cost us the game. I think
this is true.
Him being left-handed, it doesn't really matter if he's left-handed, right-handed, but it seemed like Duke, with their size, they'd always force him to his try to force him to his right, and he just could not do it. And then when he tried to go with his left, I mean, he's spinning around the 3-point line, 30 seconds, 35 seconds, however long it was. And I mean, you just can't win like that. So there's differences. There's comparisons.
Banging shots down. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do like that.
So. And I knew where y'all thought where I was going to go with it. I tried to change it up a little bit because I think Mark Sears for Bama basketball was more valuable to Bama basketball than Jalen Milroe was to Alabama football. If we're just talking about, we talk about stats. I mean, Milroe did did great things, but we're not talking about that. When it came to and maybe it's because there's not as many games for football players to play compared to basketball players. Maybe that's the issue as it is. Obviously, you don't want to be playing the same amount of basketball or same amount of football games as basketball because you might not have a team by the end of it. But I don't know. That's just
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but it's hard to compare the two sports in general, like you said. I think the difference is with Sears, and I'm a fan of Milroe, like I've said on this podcast before, but I think Milroe was more of a roller coaster, whereas Sears was the reliable wheel in the cog, of the overall machine that Nate Oates has built. Whereas Milroe, he had the build, physicality, and he showed signs of the skill set. Whereas Sears has clearly the skill set, but clearly has the shortcomings in the physical build of it.
Right. Right. I agree.
So I think every time that we saw Sears' shortcomings, I would say for the majority of it, it wasn't even necessarily a problem with skill set. It was the fact that his build in this league is just not there.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Duke. And it's funny to say that about a person that's 6 feet.
I see him as
if he was 6'9", it'd probably be a very different story. And that's just it's sad to think about that. To have the skill set, it's just your physical build is just not there.
Yeah, and I mean, comparison would be like, what if Kyra Lewis had stayed at Alabama for 4 years, or stayed in college for 4 years, or Colin Sexton? Those are similar players. Sexton, as far as being the most talented of them all, obviously, they're not very tall. And in a league full of very tall players who can hit the same kind of shots that you can, and they're literally statues above you, you're going to have issues. So I 100% agree. 100% agree with what you said, Hunter. Absolutely.
I just feel like at the end of the day, Sears was the more stable, reliable player. And it might be even just a factor of the team overall, a lot of the times that we complain about Milroe, it's more than one player. Because I remember early on this season for this year for Sears, there's the one game where he didn't score like a single point, I felt like, or it was like he went like a whole half without scoring a point, and it didn't even matter.
He went scoreless one game,
That's
games,
what it was.
Because the second game he didn't play the second half. The LSU, I think it was.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's a lot of factors that go into it and how we view these players, and that at the end of the day, it is a team. It's not one player. Yeah. But I think with Sears, I think at the end of the day, he was the more reliable.
However,
until this year, he regressed a little this year in terms of shooting.
We can't view these players the same way though anymore, right, guys? They're paid, so it comes back to that too. I mean, would we probably be as aggressive or so, I don't know what's the best word for it. Hard on some of these players for the way they are. Well, maybe, probably, but that's just expectations. And there's a couple people that haven't announced on the basketball team this year that I think they will transfer. I'm very surprised by the one we mentioned earlier. Jeff and I talked about it, but I expect a couple more because of either lack of confidence or maybe they just feel like they're not being treated fairly, which that's just life, unfortunately. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this era. I'm really not. And I told Jeff earlier, I hate to say
it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
It ain't going anywhere, that's for sure.
And you might as well just pick up an NFL team or an NBA team. I probably will not watch NFL or NBA, but I'm to the point where, I don't know. Why care about it so much?
Look, NIL, if it was used in the truest sense of the word, is fine. If players can go sell their own image and their own likeness and profit off of it, that's on them. They're welcome to
Or
do
get
that.
paid when they're in the video game. That's fine.
But to mask it as, Alabama's paying Ryan Williams $9 million in NIL money. It's not NIL money. They're just paying him. Just say he's got a contract for $9 million.
It's a contract.
Even though he's not old enough to rent a car. Does he even have a license? I don't know.
Supposed to be here for an education.
Cannot get a hotel room. Can't get a hotel room.
But that's the deal. But everybody's calling it NIL instead of what it is. And I've never thought that colleges should pay their players because they give them free scholarship to go to school there. So that's payment enough. But they should be able to have jobs or sell their image and likeness. You can't keep a college player from earning money. It's unconstitutional to keep them from earning money. So NIL should have always been legal. I have no problem
with them. Yeah, in the fur store when they're selling their jerseys with their names on it. Yeah,
bingo.
I don't see no problem with that. Or having their likeness in the video game. Yeah, you probably should be getting some money for that.
Yeah, like on a commercial or something, local car dealership or whatever. That kind of stuff. I'm all for that. Do as much of that as you can. And if you're higher profile and get more than the backup punter, then that's so be it. That's called, economy.
Yeah.
There's different tiers of income. It's like that everywhere. So, but to mask it as, Texas has XYZ and NIL money. That's not what it is. They have XYZ and pay for play money. That's what you just call it, PFP.
Well,
instead of NIL, just call it PFP money.
And a lot of people want to talk about this too, and I actually do want to get both of y'all's opinions on this. A lot of people talk about how much money. We're on the topic of NIL and pay for play, and all the numerous national championship teams that Alabama had in football, and how much money that all of those current NFL players have, made, right? It's like over $1 billion with current contracts of all of them. Alabama doesn't have the money to compete in some of these things. I don't even think they're top 5. You're talking about Ohio State, Texas, USC. These are Notre Dame. These are places that have. You think Alabama has money? These programs will crap on the amount of money that these programs have, that and their fan bases have, and people are going to start realizing, they're like, well, this is just bullcrap. Georgia's probably got more money when it comes to sports and everything than Alabama does, just based on their state, because of lottery and all of that other stuff too. Florida, FSU in Florida, Miami is a private school, so they're different. But you look at those schools, oh my goodness. Alabama, you've got to figure out your NIL stuff. If this is the era of how it's going to be, you got to be able to get more money in. And I hate it. I hate it. I don't know how other ways I can.
Because you got to pay for their education too, and now you got to find money to pay them for playing. So now you're basically paying them twice with a free education. If you're going to pay him $7 million to go to school there, then he can pay for his own tuition. If you're going to pay these guys all these millions of dollars, then give the scholarship to somebody who needs it.
Exactly. And if that's the case, if that's the way it's going to be, then guess what? I know they've increased the scholarship limit, right? Well, then the players, the ones who aren't, to your point, Jeff, you said, I don't need to reiterate it. You said it perfectly. You said it perfectly.
Roster spot. It's going to be like the NFL before we know it, and you can't stop it because the wheels are already in motion.
but there's nothing. There's no contract to it.
That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. Is there's no rules, but terminology and whatnot is going to start mirroring the NFL. You're going to start hearing 1-year contracts. You're going to hear contracts being talked about. You're going to hear roster spots instead of scholarships. Well, XYU. Oh, you only have 10 roster spots left. Or you only have 1 roster spot left. Whatever. So everything is going to slowly migrate to the NFL model, which is a cash cow. Why not model it after that? I mean,
and then you have
the ratings for the NFL playoff games. My God,
like walk-ons. That was one of my favorite things. Levi Wallace was a walk-on at Alabama and earned his way onto the team. And he had himself a decent career. Players like that are going to be to the wayside, and they're not going to even put time into sports. And I was like, well, if they start doing that, what's the rest of the down the road kind of ideology when it comes to it? It really does affect everything, whether people know it or not. It's affecting 10 things or many things 10 years down the road, and be like, you know what? I might not put my kid in that kind of sport because there's no chance for him. So
I think it's already there.
Oh yeah, it is already there. It's been there, but it's about to get worse. About to get worse.
Was it like 1,500 players entered the basketball portal since Monday?
Yeah, it was nuts.
Since last Monday or something like that. Whenever that portal opened up in the middle of the NCAA tournament, that makes a lot of sense.
I got a question. Just because you brought up Notre Dame, and the reason they are able to rake in the money that they have is because they're not tied to a conference. So whatever they win, they get to pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Alabama, Alabama as of right now, you think if they were to be like, all right, we're independent, we're leaving the SEC, do you think they would make more money being independent or still with the SEC?
No.
Purely hypothetical.
Yeah, no, the SEC is too big of a cash cow.
Yeah.
Now, if they were like in a Mountain West or something, that'd be one thing. But the SEC, I think, is too big of a.
That was the one case. Like, I thought it was interesting.
The brand. That's
interesting thought, though.
No, I love it. That's what we're all.
Which is what the Big Ten and SEC are talking about doing, anyways. When they're saying like, we're just going to break off and start our own league.
And they should. Honestly, it probably. Yeah.
That travesty of the playoffs this year, with Boise State getting a bye week, I mean that was chicken bleep. So they got to do something about something. Got to.
Hey, say what you would about the NFL. I got my problems with them, certainly, as everybody else that watches it. At the end of the day, I respect the NFL more because they protect the product. What you see is of quality, and what we're watching in college football, that was the most boring college football playoff that I have ever watched. Is nothing exciting happened. It's just,
I mean,
I think that's
I didn't watch really any of it when Bama didn't get in, and we shouldn't have gotten in with 3 losses.
Agreed.
Make that clear. We should
and
not
we
have
got
gotten
smacked.
In. It's not a tournament of good. It's tournament should be of elite teams, not just they're some sort of good. So when we got left out, I didn't watch really any of the playoffs. Maybe a few plays here and there, whatever. But
even pre-playoffs, the SEC championship was going for like $60.
Yeah, I didn't watch that at all.
Whereas the year
I think
prior,
last year when Bama Georgia was in it, there was like $2,500 for a ticket.
Oh yeah, at the cheapest.
Yeah, up in the nosebleeds of the bin zone.
And that's it's just crazy how quick of a turnaround that was.
Yeah,
it's like you talk about a cash cow, and then you don't bring in one of the brands that's going to probably bring in you some more money. Do I think, to Jeff's point, do I think that Alabama deserved to make this playoff this past year? Absolutely not. We had flaws out the wazoo. I mean, it was insane. So I'm upset with college sports right now, and it has nothing to do with the script A that I love to wear. It has nothing to do with that. It is because I I am a person who loves the philosophy of what college football stood for. And yes, Bama did benefit from it for many years. Yeah, that's great. So did USC. So did Texas. So did Ohio State. But then you had your random events. You had your Boise States beating in Oklahoma. You had your UCFs who went undefeated, and people claim that they were national champions because of what they did. Tulane's. I mean, there's plenty of times you could count on TCU. Plenty of times. Now, I'm sorry.
Just let them play for their own trophy. Let them play in the Group of 5 tournament or whatever, and then crown them the Group of 5 champs.
But see,
stop wasting everybody's time with these mid majors going up against in the playoffs against the big boys. It's not basketball. You're not ever going to have a Cinderella run through the college football playoffs. It just doesn't happen. You might get a one-off. You might hit a monumental upset one week, but the team that pulled the upset's getting slaughtered the next week. You can book it.
Yeah.
There's no Cinderellas happening in football in college football
and
playoffs.
It hasn't happened for a while.
No,
But that's to bring it back to basketball. That was the magic of March Madness, is that you saw these smaller schools who got in because they won their conference tournament beat a Kentucky, and it'd be like we've all seen the memes in TikToks of some white guy who's majoring in finance just go off and beat a Power 5 school in the tournament. That's awesome to watch, and the fact that we didn't get it this year, it sucks. For Troy, as an example,
guy
Troy
was selling insurance the next year. Guarantee it. Book it.
Well,
right
and
there.
Oh yeah,
like you said, because a lot of these
Troy,
older players that would normally be playing at these mid-major schools, 4 or 5 year careers and then going on to the workforce, they're all now transferring for their last year or two to a bigger school. So a lot of these older good players that you would normally see at these, Cinderella type schools are transferring to big time conference schools. So those mid majors all their good players are going to Power 4 schools.
We heard about St. Peter's, right? They're one of those teams. St. Peter's is one of those, Cinderella people who could get in and do something. Well, they went from D1 to D3 this year after the tournament.
Yeah.
D1 to D3. Do you know how much a demotion that is and just general stuff? That is insane. That is on levels with way below, to almost right above Huntington, who are NAIA or something along those lines. They're not even a Division 3. And it's no shame to them. That's just the ability that those schools have. But from a team that was I think they made the tournament this year, to say, we can't do it. It's over. We're going to D3. It's a demotion to D2. Good Lord, going to D3 means you can't even afford to keep it. And I don't blame them. It sucks. It freaking sucks.
Yeah, like that. What's his name from North Dakota State that bombed us for 40 this year, or 38 or something like that?
South Carolina. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Apparently,
you hit the portal to go to South Carolina to play basketball? Seriously? Okay. He must not wanted to compete, so that tells me all I need to know about him. So Nate must have known that too. That's why I never called him.
But 40, well, when you don't play defense, I think too. I don't know what else to say. But
on to the spring football. Some good reports coming out of spring practice about the quarterback play. Hearing some good reports about all three of them, actually, not just Ty because he had a good scrimmage, but all three of them I'm hearing are playing pretty well. It might be a legit quarterback battle. I mean, I predicted Keelan would win it in camp, but I got to say, I honestly have no idea. I mean, Ty's playing really well. Mac keeps getting talked about. Ryan Grubb might be getting something out of these guys we didn't know was there.
It's a good problem to have, I guess.
It's a shock.
Maybe
Yeah,
he's
I'm not
playing
really
bad
shocked.
cop to Debo's good cop. I don't know.
Yeah. I think all of us knew that all three were capable of winning the job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just
What are you
didn't
gonna
want
say,
it to be, well, Ty's the guy because he's been here. That's not, I
Right.
didn't want it to be that. We just sat through that and you saw what
Or
happened.
even Mac because of my Washington ties, you know. It's
Yeah.
like,
No. Like, I just wanted an equal competition. Let the guys get equal reps with the ones, you know, and the real play, you know, I mean, just that's what I wanted. I didn't want like, well, you know, Mac ran with the twos and Keelan ran with the threes and Ty looked the best. So he's the starter. You know, it's like, well, I mean, of course he's going to look the best. He ran with the ones. So, I mean, I'm just happy that it's healthy competition.
I think it's going to come down to that situation where there's been a couple of things. Ty getting appointed to certain positions, being like more of like a team manager guy. Like he's one of those. I saw something recently. I can't pinpoint it out. Can't remember when exactly it was. I think it was a week or so ago. But they, especially with the scrimmage report too that came out, I was like, it's his team to lose because of his, you know, repertoire, as they would say, where he's at. And then let's say they go into the season and he is the starter. It is his to lose again. And then there's two guys who are capable of replacing him. And they've got 4 games to prove that they're better than him with keeping their red shirt. So that's where you're at too, is, you know, okay, your number one guy can give you 2 games. You don't like it, you test out the other 2 for 2 games, and you know, you see what happens, you know. But Ty's only there for 1 more year, so that's it. That's it. It is it. And let's say Keelan or Mac, Austin Mac don't win it. It's theirs to lose next year. And you know, if they can't wait, if they don't have the patience to wait, especially in a program like this when it comes to Bama football, then maybe they don't need to be there. So, and that's all I got to say about that.
I wonder what Keelan was not promised, but you know, in his, I don't know.
I'd be a little shocked if Keenan immediately went to. I mean, granted, it is the age of college football now, but I'd be a little shocked for Keenan. Necessarily wouldn't blame Mac because he did come over. He did ride the bench at 3rd string. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of those guys is going to go. I don't think it's going to be Keelan. I think he's the future. Mm-hmm. We all know it. I mean, if it's down to that,
if he's smart, he'll follow what Arch Manning did, which should be the model of
what Bryce Young did. Like that's,
you learn, you know,
that's
you shadow,
exactly
and then
what should do.
It's yours, you know.
Unless the talent gap is so wide between Keelan and Ty and Austin. I mean, yeah, it worked out pretty well for Bryce Young to, you know, sit and learn and watch Mac play for a year and sit in meetings with him and all that stuff. Practice.
And even in the NFL, like Bryce should not have been starting for the Panthers. And in the few games that he got with Dalton, you know, at the helm, it helped him tremendously when he got
they made
back.
a big deal. He got benched. Bryce got benched, you know. Is he a bust? And I was like, he never should have been starting. It's the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
For like 3 years running.
He is literally 5'10", and you have no offensive line and no
Carolina's
weapons.
had like
You're
the number
screwed.
1 pick 4 years in a row or something like that. I mean, and then they threw him out there to be killed.
Is that good luck? Huh?
Yeah.
Same with Caleb Williams. So it was like, yeah, he's got no one.
No, that was so bad.
Oh, Ty's in the mix.
Pull him.
Yeah, Ty Jones, I'll take that. 40-something tubs, 3 picks. Yeah, I'll take Ty Jones. That'll work. And then let Keelan roll in like Bryce Young next year with a year in the system. I just hope Grubb's around that long. I hope Grubb's not a one-year deal. I
think he's going to be a 2. I really
talking about spring football, Ty, by the way.
I think Grubb's going to be a 2-year guy because he wants to see what he can do with Keelan. And if he can do something with Keelan and then get him a nice role there for another OC position in the league, I think so.
Part of me thinks that's a big reason Grubb came back. Is almost like DeBoer was like, "Look, man, you get to coach this kid, Keelan Russell. Man, the guy's a freak. You get to come down here and design a whole offense around this kid. Like,
yeah,
it's not Geno Smith, but still,
it's better than Penix."
And so I think that's a big, but that's why I don't think Grubb's a one and done. I think Grubb's here at least 2 years. I think he wants to coach Keelan at least 1 year as a starter. If it's not this year, next year as a starter. I don't, unless the money's too great for Grubb to turn down somewhere if there's a better job somewhere. But I don't think that he's going to leave before he gets a chance to coach Keelan Russell in live games and see what the kid can do.
Unless there's some just flaw that we have never heard about.
Yeah. Which they all have him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, see, and I haven't heard any of this. But every job opening, there's going to be buzz about one of Bama's coaches. That's just how it works.
Well,
I figured we'd be safe this year. We were sucked this year. And so, yeah, it's like nobody poached the staff. We actually had to offload a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that last podcast we had? This is the first year. Nobody's trying.
That's awful. That's awful.
Oh, man. Yeah. But that's just, like the Nate Oates rumors now that are floating around that he's a candidate for the Maryland job or something. I'm like, okay.
Get out of here with that.
Okay. Let's calm down with the Maryland rumors. You don't leave jobs for worse jobs unless you're the guy that left Wisconsin for Oregon State a few years ago. What was that coach? I can't remember that guy's name, but yeah. He had 10 wins at Wisconsin and left for Oregon State out of nowhere. Like, what?
He got 4. Going from 10 to 4.
And then he got fired like 2 years later and
Yes.
works. I mean, I don't know. Like, what an idiot. Like, biggest idiot ever. But maybe there's something behind the scenes there we don't know about why you would do something that stupid.
I mean, or unless you're getting close to retirement, you just want to deal with
That's like when
maybe.
Curry left Alabama for Kentucky.
Yeah.
And a couple years later, they were interviewing Gene Stallings. And I think Bama was getting ready to play Kentucky or something. And Curry had said something, and they asked Stallings, about Curry's. I mean, it wasn't like derogatory. It was something. And Stallings said, well, anybody that leaves Alabama for Kentucky, you can't take seriously.
There you go.
And that deep, Gene Stallings drawl, Talking about anybody leaves Alabama for Kentucky.
Gus going from UCF to FSU's OC.
Now I can see that. A lot of like Chip Kelly did the same thing, like some of these coaches I think are like, man, it ain't worth it. I don't want to have to kiss all these
Chip
kids'
was
ass.
a disaster for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was awful. He wasn't terrible at UCLA though. I mean, I thought he was building something there, and then he just said, I don't want to fool with this.
Environment. I don't think Chip works in the NFL, at least with his mindset and the way players talked about him. I don't think he works there.
And I don't think he works as a head coach in today's world either. I think that's why you're seeing guys quit head coaching jobs to go be a coordinator somewhere because they don't have to fool with all that.
That's probably what kind of worries me about Kirby.
He was the man 15 years ago, though, at Oregon.
He was.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of what concerns me. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really because Georgia's not my team, but with Kirby and his mindset at Georgia, I just don't. I think that's a bygone era of a mindset to have.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard to. It's going to be hard to adapt to these new times.
I mean, even Lane Kiffin, who's a people's coach, and the one kid he kicked off, the kid freaking filmed or recorded it. You don't remember that?
No.
It was the kid that didn't show up to practice for like a month. And Lane Kiffin's like, you're off the team. And and the kid recorded his conversation and tried to link it to the press. It's like, you idiot.
I mean,
look that up after.
I'm gonna have to look it up after the show.
What an idiot.
Ty, no, I haven't gone to A-Day in like 15 years.
It might be the last one.
Nothing has ever bored me more than watching an A-Day game. I might last half a quarter, and I'm like, this is awful.
The last time I watched an 8A game was when Jalen and Tua were quarterback, and Jalen was the starter. So that was 17.
That was 17. That was the last time I really paid attention to an A-Day game. But no, it's the most boring event for me ever. And the trip to Tuscaloosa and sitting there all day and the trip home, I mean, it's just for a game, yes. For just to scratch a football itch, no, just wasn't. That didn't do anything for me.
I think that's always the thing with A-Day. You're just so hungry for football to be
You just want to see, like,
the idea of A-Day should be awesome.
Yeah, the idea should be,
not.
But now with the portal windows and you can't go showcase these players because they'll hit the portal before fall, and so they're not going to go showcase anything.
It's the same thing with the UFL. On paper, I should be all about UFL and the Birmingham Stallions, yet I can't. I can't do it.
Unwatchable. You can't even begin to watch it. It's unwatchable.
Yeah.
Unless you're watching AJ McCarron.
Imagine watching a league of all the guys that weren't good enough to play in the NFL. That's all it is. And then you're like, somebody will have a good season, and then an NFL team will sign them because they were the UFL MVP, and then they get cut in by week 6. Oh man, UFL is brutal. But I'm curious what it's going to be like this year. I know it's not going to be your traditional red versus white. Winner gets steak, loser gets McDonald's, full contact, whatever. Saban would stand behind there, and then ESPN would have Herb Street doing all this stuff, and on ESPN and all that stuff. It's not even televised anymore.
No, that's not going to be televised. It's going to be awful.
So it's like, I mean, it's phasing out. You saw it coming as soon as the first coach got rid of it last year, and then Kiffin did the same this year. You're just like, here it comes. Now they're all going to start doing it. Like, they're all going to start doing it. And, that's fine. You have to adapt. Everything's, some people on Twitter are really ticked off about the 8A changing, but it's like, you got to adapt, man. Nothing is safe. I mean, nothing.
Kind of like NFL to preseason. Do we really need 2 weeks of preseason?
No.
Remember they used to play that Crumball Bear Bryant audio before the kickoffs in the games? You never could understand what he said, and he would just be like, wop, 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 wop. And it's like, nope, nobody wants to hear this crap. Like, my gosh, everybody here even wasn't even alive when this guy was coaching. And so it's like, get rid of that. And so they did. They had to adapt. They had to move on. Adapt to different things. Kids nowadays don't care about a Bear Bryant mumble speech. That's not going to get them fired up to play. Maybe your dad, your father's, it might, but not the kids playing today.
I'm not gonna lie, it got me a little hyped when I was there, even if I didn't understand what he was saying.
But somewhere along the line, they replaced it with that elephant noise, and that has got to go.
That really got me going.
God, that has got to go. Like every first down, meow, meow. Like, no. But they, oh God, Saban allowed it, and now Debo's allowing it, and I'm like, what grinds my gears is that stupid elephant noise they play. Like, lose it. It's embarrassing is what it is. It's so Keystone Cop-ish. It's just so embarrassing.
What's more embarrassing, the elephant scream or the Georgia football fan barking at you?
Yeah, I like those. When they're walking down the street and they start woofing at you. Okay.
2008, the ginger-headed kid who was talking about Go Dogs. Agreed. It was so good. It was. That's what they should have done. Subtitles. They do need subtitles.
They did, because all it was just a mumble jumble. But all the silver hairs would get all fired up, and all the kids would have their AirPods in, waiting for the game to start.
The one thing I did like about this speech and like the highlight clips is that everybody would hold their fingers up to represent the national
Yes.
team.
And then the George Teague play got the loudest ovation every time.
Oh, yeah.
Because this was before Saban got there, and we hadn't seen a championship in like 17 years. We were clinging to that George Teague play when they'd show him chase Lamar Thomas down. That the crowd would get real loud for that, but you still can understand what Bear Bryant was saying.
No,
for all
we have
know,
the technology. We should be able to clean up that audio.
A horrible racist rant, and we never would have known it.
It's incredibly racist.
It's like years later they translate it. It turns out he was horribly offensive, like
that's why they have to clean up the audio. They do the oh god.
Oh, Ty, that would be terrible. Golly, why don't you just shoot yourself in the face instead and save yourself the pain?
That's hilarious.
Once again, I was not an Eli fan though. I thought he was one of the worst radio announcers I'd ever heard, but a lot of people love him, so more power. God rest ye, but yeah, I wasn't a fan. Nice guy, heck of a nice guy. I thought he was awful calling a football game on the radio.
Yeah,
he's a good NASCAR announcer though. I'll give him that.
Oh, you moved NASCAR?
No, he's doing like West Alabama now or somewhere. Or Jacksonville or Jackson State or something is where he's the radio guy now. But no, he did NASCAR for years. While he was doing Alabama games, he would do NASCAR on MRN for years and years. I would hear him on the radio. Yeah, that's about what it is. Give me another cigarette and whiskey. And where are the whores? Oh yeah, we got to muffle that out. I can't have you. But anyway, but yeah, spring's on the around the corner, and we get 3 months off now of baseball. Which shout out to the baseball team, top 10. Took 2 out of 3 this weekend, so baseball is looking legit. They should have taken 2 out of 3 against Tennessee. Ask Coach Vaughn if he agrees with that.
I'm actually super excited for Bama baseball, and I'm really happy for them given the controversy that they had. That the fact that they're able to bounce back from that actually means a lot.
I think they got the right coast.
Right coast. Talk about Bohannon.
Yeah,
that is that is a whole situation that I am still pissed about. Oh my gosh! Thank God that we got Vaughn as the coach.
I like Vaughn. He seems legit.
We're what are we? What did I tell you, Jeff? What was it 8? We're 8 in the country.
Yeah, 8th, I think.
We just beat Oklahoma. All right, we won the series against them. We beat A&M. We won 1 against Tennessee, which they're a whole nother category above everybody else right now, in my opinion. They're so freaking good.
And in this conference, granted, SEC, they're good at a lot of things, but when it comes to baseball, it is the real deal. The fact that we're competitive in this conference, that says a lot.
Says something. At one point, like 7 of the top 10 baseball ranked teams were SEC teams.
Or just look at the national championship the last 10 years. There's only like a handful where an SEC team didn't win it.
Yeah. I mean, I
feel like every other year a SEC team would win it.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's the truth. That's where the best players are. So anyway, well, that's about all we had for this week. We wanted to touch on the end of the basketball season, a little bit of spring football, some baseball. Yeah, that's true. And we added Texas and Oklahoma to the league for softball and baseball. I mean, that's going to boost softball.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Oklahoma's won like 5 championships in a row. I think they've lost 5 games total in like the last 5 years. So
insane stat.
I mean, yeah. And then Texas baseball is pretty good too. Oklahoma's pretty good too. So adding those 2 just made it even that much tougher.
Love it.
But I mean, that's where you grind.
Indeed it is.
So you guys got anything else you want to throw on the table this evening?
I think if anything, just to put a bow on the whole basketball season, as a person that did go to University of Alabama, and got to experience the Colin Sexton era for what it was. Watching that as a student, I was like, all right, well, that was fun. We'll never be relevant at basketball again. To be where we are now, I think is an achievement. I never thought we would have been a Final Four team ever. So even though it's not what we wanted, I am content with how we handled this season overall.
Mm-hmm.
I think it actually was a testament to how good a job Nate did this year. I mean, lost Trelly. That was, I think, a big loss, bigger than a lot of Bama fans realize how big a loss that was. I mean, the team was built around Trelly shooting and Youngblood being able to spell him shooting the ball, and to just, distribute the shots from out there, and losing Trelly kind of threw, and then losing Reed for that big amount of time just kind of threw a monkey wrench into kind of the whole flow and dynamic of what he was building there. So getting to the Elite Eight, losing a key cog like Trell, and then having Reed gone for most of the season, and just kind of working his way back into game shape there at the end. I thought, Nate had his hiccups this year, the Tennessee game, obviously. But I think overall to make an Elite Eight run and win 28 games with a really flawed team and high turnover team, streaky team, I think Nate really did a pretty good job this year, notwithstanding.
I think we can all nitpick. I think we can all nitpick.
Yeah, we can nitpick him to death.
You can do that.
Yeah, with anybody. You're right.
When it comes to, for my biggest nitpick, his time management and using timeouts effectively, or to Parker's, pulling, more physical players like a Duke does.
I love that you just mentioned that, Hunter. I'm sorry. I got to break the news. Cameron just let us know that Alabama just got a 7-footer from Bucknell.
Oh, there we go.
At center. Hey, that's one guy. That's one 7-footer.
That's the weight.
There we go.
Big.
Right direction.
Big. He was one guy that a lot of people were like, we don't know enough about him because he plays at Bucknell. But he is 7 feet tall and will give us some help, I hope.
Yes, I agree.
So sorry, Hunter, continue.
So back to the one nitpick. If he could be better about using his timeouts, I'll be happy. Yeah. More than happy than already.
Hopefully he does. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be cannonballing into that mindset just yet.
It's a give and pull. I get his philosophy is let it play out, but then sometimes it's like, dude, kill the momentum. Just call the timeout.
Ooh.
You don't get to take the timeouts home. You might as well just use them.
Gotta love it. Apparently, Cameron says the guy is 250 pounds and shot 54% from the field. Okay.
Well, 254, that's good size. I don't know what Cliff weighed.
Probably about 235, 240. I mean, the guy's probably got some size. Again, he played at Bucknell, so I have I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing how it is out there to all the alumni out there for Bucknell or Bucknell. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce it. But if the guy can play, I don't care. I just need a solid double from the guy. 10 points,
a rim
10 plus. Yeah, I just need a guy who can get up and get
somebody
rebounds.
To deter people from just dribbling it in uncontested and laying it off the glass.
You were talking about Florida and their depth. One thing why I picked them to win the national championship is because they got 2 bigs. Oh, and guess what? They got 2 more guys who are bigs too, right behind them that are as good. So, I mean, you got to have your shooters, yes. You got to have your drivers, but you got to have your post guys when things go south. So that's it. It's kind of like having an offense. It's kind of like an offensive line. You got to have an offensive line when it comes down to the nitty gritty. Guys who can do the grunt work, as they call it. So that's
true.
So Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes. But
there's the first domino. We got a big man. So keep going, Nate. You ain't through. I mean, it's good, you know, every year you have like 9-10 new players. That's the world we live in now. So every year I got to relearn the team.
Same. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, gentlemen, if that's all you have for this evening, call it a night. Enjoyed this hour plus catching up with you guys, man. Try not to go a month between our next show. Although,
see you next year.
Now that everything's kind of died down, won't have much to cover. So
probably within the next couple of weeks we can talk about Pirates baseball, Braves baseball, end of the season with the basketball season, and spring.
Braves are out of the gate.
And the Yankees. Let's talk about the Yankees.
They should be using those torpedo bats. Braves need to start using torpedo bats.
I actually just saw this post about torpedo bats, and I did not read anything into it, so I'm actually enlightened. I want to see what this means. Don't tell me anything. I've heard about it, but I have no idea what the whole situation is.
Jeff, I know we're trying to close out, but do you feel like they introduced the torpedo bats too soon? Because I've been seeing that going around. It's like you almost kind of showed your hand a little too early.
Well, some people used them last year. There were some players that used them last year.
Oh, okay. I thought this was like brand new that the Yankees,
I think Lindor used one a little bit last year. I think Stanton used one last year, and that's what messed up his elbows because he switched like halfway through the season or something, switched bats halfway through the season and messed up his elbows. But I think Lindor used it last year. There's a couple other players I thought I read that maybe not full season, and then this year. Not all the Yankees are using them. There's only a couple that are, but it was just like another one of those analytical things where they just ran analytics of where the higher percentage of contact on the bat was being made.
I love that. I love
just said, well, let's solid up that area. No, so you probably won't see as many sharded bats anymore because they're strengthening up where the ball has the higher percentage of where the ball contacts the bat.
It's such like a money ball. It's just some nerd studying stats. It's like, what if we did this?
Yeah.
Actually, it's so
awesome.
I
see here that 64% of the batted balls are hit off this area. So why don't we pull more wood down into this area?
Everybody's looking at the rule book. Is like, can they do that? It's like, yeah, you can do that.
And Manfred's like, yeah, they didn't violate any rules. But most of the uproar is because the Yankees were doing it, and they clubbed like 15 home runs in their opening series against the Brewers.
What was it, like four home runs? It wasn't even like the fourth inning yet. Something crazy.
Dude, the game Saturday, they hit a home run on the first three pitches.
Yeah.
The first three hitters swung at the first pitch, and all three had home runs.
That's going to be so demoralizing.
It was Goldschmidt led off, first pitch, gone. Then Bellinger, first pitch, gone. And then, of course, Judge, first pitch, gone. It was all off Nestor Cortez, former Yankee great Nestor Cortez. The last pitch he threw for the Yankees was that Freddie Freeman grand slam. And then the first pitch he threw for the Brewers, the first three pitches he threw for the Brewers were all home runs. So he threw four pitches, and his last four pitches he threw all got hit for home runs.
That's so demoralizing.
And then he got somebody out, recover. And then Austin Wells hit a home run off of him. So he gave up 4 bombs in the first inning. They're all solo shots.
Career over.
And then Judge hit 3 that game. Judge hit a grand slam a couple innings later, and a 2-run shot like later in the game. I mean, so it's like everybody's flipping out, about the Yankees with these bats and all that. And I'm like, Judge doesn't use one of those. You give one of those to Judge, he might hit one into the moon. So
might hurt people.
They're not illegal. I mean, I don't know how many guys are using them, but they're all going to be using them soon.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just go back to the old days. Let's just use cork bats and steroids. Let's just go back to those days because it was so much better. It was.
Go back to the Sammy Sosa days.
Yeah, Mark McGwire.
You're not going to get an argument from me that the steroid era was the funnest era of baseball I can remember.
And guess what? It's not just the hitters, the pitchers too. They can use them too. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, I had a miserable time watching Bonds launch balls into McCovey Cove. That was awful to watch. I hated it. I was so miserable while he was just hitting moon tanks into the cove, and everybody, there were 500 people in their kayaks out in the cove waiting for a Bonds home run ball, and they would dive in the water and be fighting over it. What terrible for baseball. How terrible was that for baseball? My gosh.
Awful. Just the worst.
It used to be a proper country.
Yeah. What's funny now, I thought the biggest BS was Sosa having to issue that apology to the Cubs.
Yeah.
So they let him back in the ballpark. I was like,
come on.
That made me I was so mad, dude. I was like, Sosa should have told the Cubs to go F themselves, man. While they were putting him on every billboard and sucking up every coin they made off the steroid era, and then to come back later and go, we're horrified that he used PEDs. He's not welcome here until he acknowledges it. And I'm like, you all profited off of all of it. None of you cared when you were selling out every home game for 5 years. Nobody's had it said a word. So I don't want to hear that. Sosa should have told the Cubs where they could stick it. Like forever. And he should have done it in public. He should have called a press conference.
There's still a chance.
And told him to shove it. Shove it. Capital S. Oh my gosh. I get fired up when I get talking about the steroid era and the discrimination against it.
It's funny because one of the first books as a kid I was reading was Mark McGuire and his time back in the day. And then I didn't obviously read the end of it, but then found out years later that he was part of that. I was like, should it put a blemish on it or be like, no?
They're keeping their job. That's how guys were keeping their job.
It was like they had to compete against obviously once you start doing your investigative stuff on it, the pitchers were doing it too. Everybody was doing it. I don't want to hear a thing about it. It was these players were just better.
They're just vilifying. They're just vilifying Bonds, McGuire, and Clemens because they're the highest profile names. Never mind, all those guys were Hall of Famers long before PEDs came along.
Oh yes.
And the pitchers were juicing too, man. The pitchers were juicing too. Everybody was juicing. It's the way it was. And until they make something illegal, everybody's going to do it. If aluminum bats were legal in baseball, everybody would be using them. Why? Because they're legal. They give you an advantage? Yes. That's why they're banned now. But if there was no rule against aluminum bats, somebody would take an aluminum bat in the batter's box.
Yep.
That's just the way it is. So the fact that everybody was doing it in that era, so you shouldn't separate that era. It was what it was.
Right.
It's like
right.
You can't suddenly not put somebody in the College Hall of Fame because they transferred 4 times. They didn't do anything wrong. That was well within the rules. So I don't know. I got very opinionated on the BS that's against the steroid.
Hey, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the podcast,
it
brother. It
captivated the country. Baseball was dead until that steroid-fueled summer, and it brought baseball back. Anybody that denies that wasn't around back then or wasn't paying attention. Baseball was dead until that summer. Go watch Long Gone Summer on 30 for 30.
Fantastic.
I mean, that ballparks were selling out every night. So I don't want to hear that.
Make steroids a requirement.
All the pipsqueak baseball writers that he took roids. I'm going to vote no. Whatever. That's another crock is the Hall of Fame voting by sports writer. He was mean to me when he played, so no. I vote no. He was mean when he played. I asked him a question. He was mean to me, so no. It's a no for me.
Oh my gosh. I'm literally just I'm scrolling on Twitter, and we can end with this. We talked about torpedo bats, right?
Live on the air, scrolling on Twitter.
Scrolling on the Twitter. on X, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, that's right. Get it right, Parker.
Trop. This is for the people who out there 5 hours ago says Troptoberfest, whatever it is. Torpedo bats? ? Back in my day, players had antibiotic steroids like a man.
Yes, it is. Yeah, take steroids like an adult.
There you go.
Duh.
Wow.
You're right, Will. Bama baseball is killing it.
Mm.
So, anyway, but yeah, that's a good way to end it. Good way to end the show tonight. We get out here by 8:30, 9:30, 100 time. But anyway, roll tide, guys. Another season in the books. We're gonna put another Elite Eight banner up, which is fine. I mean, hang the banner. That's the joke now. Is anything that happens, hang the banner. But I think that's a legit accomplishment. There are only 8 teams left out of a lot, and when the weekend was over, there were only 4 teams left. So 3 other teams are doing like we're doing. Aw, shucks. So
Is what it is.
Anyway, we'll be back next year. We're not going anywhere. Nate's the right guy, the right trajectory. We're getting in living rooms of elite players now. So, I mean, that's half the battle. So it is.
Indeed it is.
But anyway, good luck to the 4 number 1 seeds in the tournament this weekend. If Auburn wins it, that'd be cool to have a championship in the state. If Florida wins it, it'd be cool to have the ring in the SEC. If Duke wins it, it'd be cool because they had the best player. So, you see the best team or top team with the best player win it. If Houston wins it, nobody would give a flip. So, best of luck to 3 of the 4 teams.
Everybody to Houston.
Good luck. May the best
Good luck,
win.
Houston.
Except Houston.
Except for Houston. Nobody wants to see a 35 to 34 championship final. Like Anthony Grant versus Kelvin Sampson. First team to double digits wins.
Oh my God! That just put the nail on the head. That's enough.
That's sign
enough
off right there.
That's it. I'm done. Good evening. Y'all have a good night. Goodbye. See you later.
Maverick out. All right, boys.
I'm done.
Roll Tide to you. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.